Hello and welcome everyone to this Model Context Protocol, the MCP series. In this one, we're going to talk about how we can build a client with a large language model. Basically, we have built the client without large language model. We built the server in our previous videos. And if you have missed it, you can watch in this series the previous ones. But just to recap what we did earlier, we created a MCP server, very simple, world's simplest MCP server, which has got only one tool to add two numbers. That is this one, the line number 6. And then you have got these MCP resources which you created, and we pretty much were able to host this as a server. Now, what we additionally needed is a client to explore this server and use it. So we wrote this code and executed that. We demoed and recorded, and the video is available in our channel. So what we did, we basically used this stdio parameters, created this run server.py, and did the same thing, right? So what we can do, we can probably take this similar thing and start building where we need LLM. Now, before we need LLM, what I essentially would like all of you to really pay your attention here is that you don't need LLM to from any of the paid LLM providers. If you're doing these things for exploration or learning, you can use our GitHub, and the GitHub allows you to get the models for free, and you can use them, right? So we have got something called GitHub Marketplace. So if you go to github.com and then you use this three thing, you go to the GitHub Marketplace, and you see in the marketplace you have got a lot of models available. So if you click on the catalog, it shows you the list of models which you can use, and you can see that there are a bunch of models available. For example, let's say I want to use the OpenAI 404 Mini. I can pick this model, and it basically gives me a playground. If you want to use this model, you use this model, and it shows you what all you need to use this model from your application. Let's say you're a Python developer, which I am at this point, and then I'm going to use the Azure AI Inference SDK, not the OpenAI SDK, which is this is a generic one. And then I can pretty much follow the instruction, and it also gives me a code sample. So you can pretty much not only use this model for free from here by following the instruction, you need a token to access it from your application. So this is the GitHub token. So you can create a developer token and then use that token to access this. So I have done that. I have a model in my GitHub marketplace, and I have a token which I can use. So what I essentially would do is that I would take this client code, maybe the complete one, okay, which we have seen already, and I paste it over here in a complete new file. Now, what I essentially would like to do is that remove some of the code from here, okay, just the listing of tool, and I'm not going to call this. So what essentially it is doing, it is sort of like listing all the tools. So I'll start from top. It has the MCP client, and I'm using this client session, stdr server types. And then I have got the stdio because I'm using both client and server from the same process. So I use this stdio client object. I create this server parameter here. And if you remember in our server, MCP server demo, we ran the MCP server Python code by MCP run and then file name. So this is exactly it is doing. It's mimicking that MCP run server.py, and environment is none. This is an optional value, but just to show that you can pass environment variable if you have any. In this async, right? So we define a function called run. You can give any name to this, and then you basically create this TIO client object with a server param and read write, and then you create the session and you initialize the session. So this essentially will run the server.py in a stdio. So it's basically you don't have to run it separately. you can run it from, invoke that from your client code. That is what I'm doing. After that, you're gonna get the list of tools from the server. So just to recap the server, these are the tools. We only have one, so you can see one. If I may go back to this LLM, I get this tool. I get the, I now call the function whenever I call the do a Python and file name. So let me show you how that experience looks like. Okay. So this is my bash window. So let me just say that it's there. I'm in the environment. Should be fine. Sorry. So I went to the sample code and now I run Python 3 LLM.py. You can see now it started the server, it listed the tool and showed me that yes, it has got some method add, right? So all good at this point in time. So tools are there. I can also add additional information over here in the print. So I can say print, what else I can say that tool, comma, why there's so much of support. Yeah, I don't need that. So tool, I need to show you the inputs. No, so it's the tools, okay. Dot put. All right, so now properties. Good to go. Now if I go back into my terminal window, run it, what did I do here? Okay, see, solve. Okay, now if I do that, okay, let me run it fresh. So this will show me the parameter information. So I need to pass both the parameter A and B. So it's pretty much getting me a bit more detail. So that's how I can navigate these things, right? Now, if I have more tools, right? So you can see that it essentially gets me a list of tools, right? It's an array. So the tools are basically a collection. So if I have more of these tools, right? What I can do, I can list out to that tool, right? And maybe I use the same print. Instead of printing, let me not print them. Instead of printing, I put them into a collection. Okay. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to say functions and an empty array. And here I'm going to say functions dot append. And here I'm going to append something. I'll come back here. So what essentially we are going to do is that we're going to get the tool name and we're going to get the schema and then add them into the property. So what I needed to do is that now if someone is typing a prompt, let me put this bottom so that I get a little space over here. If someone writes a prompt in my application, let's say, take an example of this prompt, and then I say that add 20 with 25. This is the prompt someone adds. If someone adds this prompt, I should be able to send this 20 and 25 to my add function, right? Written in the server. That is the tools as A and B and get the output as A plus B. That's what I'm going to do. So remember that I'm not calling a function. I am using a free text. and then it is calling this add method. So this is what the trick is. So what we essentially need is a first of all LLM model. Now, if you remember that the GitHub really gives us the capability to copy paste the code. So we'll copy paste the code from GitHub and get the list, and then I will create a function to call the LLM. So since I'm writing in a single file, let me put it over here. So I'll say def and I'll say call LLM. If that is the name of the function, okay, what essentially it is going to do is that it is going to, sorry, it is going to get the large language model detail. What is the model URL? What is the token, etc., etc. So let me do that over here pretty quickly. While I'm trying to do that, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to go back to the GitHub and I copy a few lines of code here. Okay, so I come over here. Oh no no no! No. Sorry, I think I did a okay. I think I did a mistake. Oh no, I'm fine. All right, sorry, I was got a bit confused. So I will say I copy from here. I come back and then add for LLM. Okay, I add them and then I also import JSON. I'll tell you when we need that, but we need that. I don't think we need user message. So let me just give a move it out, and we are good to go. So we're not reading from environment variables. So we don't need to host them all of them. And then next thing we need is that we need this to endpoint and inheritance. So I'm gonna go ahead and please do that. And I come over here and pass them on. So, sorry, I get the endpoint, I get the model name, I get the token. Token is, yeah. Now I have a little secret utility called util in this. So there is a file where I have got the token. So I use this util. It's nothing but as text. So I'm copying this token from here. So there's a variable. So the token will come. It looks like a junk GUID like characters, right? So it's gonna come here over here. I copied the O4 mini, but here I'm more interested in GPT. So let me say GPT 4. So you can choose and type any name which is available in that inference URL. So you can say models.github.ai/inference is that GPT-4 is the model name, token is the token, right? And if I go back to this thing, I create the client like that. So I copy it, I come over here, and I just paste it below this line. So you see here, do I need this? No, I don't need this. So see here, I have got the endpoint, I have got the Azure key credential as token, which essentially can help me now initialize this client. Now I can just call the client, right? Uh, let me print that so that you know when it is happening. So I'll say calling LLM, and then I create a response object. And that response object is nothing but client dot complete, because it's a chat completion model. So you start here and end here, and then inside that you have got messages. Messages is equal to, and in the messages I've got two messages to add. So first one, I'm gonna add role as system. So I'll say, you say system, and then I have a content that is you are a helpful agent. Okay, so this is the content. Next message I'm gonna add here is the role, which is user, and I need a content. This time the content is my, sorry, prompt. Okay, where is that prompt? So the prompt will come from my um, functions parameter. So let us add that. Okay, this will come from here. So I add the prompt prompt. Okay, so you get a prompt which is basically getting passed from the function, and then you PROMPTs, right? So and then you basically create, call the client.response. You add the message over here. It is not yet done. I am going to add few more things. A couple of them are optional. Oh, I don't need this. A couple of them are optional, but some of them are mandatory. So I'll say model underscore name equals to, what was the variable name? Model underscore name. That was the name. Okay, so I'll say model equals to model underscore name, and then tools. What are the tools? Tools are functions, which are basically an array of things. Where these functions are coming from? The functions are again a parameter. So you can pass this as another parameter to your call LLM function, which essentially would allow you to call set the tools with the function. So what you can do now is that now you can set values like temperatures, and I can set the temperature as 1 dot, and I can say max tokens, and I can set that to 1000, 10,000, 1000 is fine. And then I say top underscore p equals to 1 dot. So essentially, we're gonna get these values from this thing. So one after another. So I'll just mark this. Okay. So this is optional. So the one after another, you see that you basically are calling this the same thing, and then you can just use this response to do further activities. So let me come over here, finishes that. Okay. Now here I come here saying that response underscore message, and I take the response dot choices 0 dot message. All right, so I get the response message which I needed that. Now I have got to create, I may be having more than one function or tools, right? So in that case, let me create an array function to call, I say that, sorry, I say this an empty array, and let me give a name functions to call, and I just use these functions to call to generate that. Now, if I say if response underscore message has got tool calls, then for tool underscore call in response dot message and tool calls. Okay, let's run a loop, and I print tool. Let's put a capital tools, and then I finish it off, and then I gave a tool underscore call. Okay, so it basically is gonna print. And what is the name? Name is equals to tool underscore call dot name. Tool underscore call dot function dot name. Okay. Ah, sorry, NAME. And then I got the args, same as args we printed before, right? So you remember. So that is tool underscore call dot function dot arguments. Okay, but we will JSONize it. So I'll say JSON dot load, and then we just load it. So kind of like we are getting name and argument from the list of tools we may have in our server. Okay, and then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use this function to call dot append, and then I'm going to append this inside JSON. So I'll say name as in name org as in org args. Okay, so that's how I create this array called function to call array. And then what I'm also going to do is that I'm going to return. So when you call this, you essentially return this function to call array back. Okay, so you have got this now LLM calling method, that is this one, call LLM, which takes a prompt, takes a function array, and then when it returns a list of function to call by taking their name and the kind of args they need. That is what it is doing. Okay, and then what we essentially need going down into that, we need you remember, like we left one place in the main method, that is function dot underscore sorry dot append. So here we're going to call this convert. So let me just here it is, call LLM, and I pass on prompt. No, it's the wrong name. Prompt and function. We need to be careful. So we have got a functions, we have got a name, and then we pass them on. So we call the function call LLM a prompt and function, right? And then what essentially we're gonna do is now, okay, so hang on a second, we need one small thing. So let me just remove this. Before that, if you notice here, that we have got this prompt, right? And then we say add 20 with 25. So we use this function to kind of call that. That is all fine. What we need is that we convert the tool into a LLM call. So we got the tool, which essentially gives us the thing. So let me add one small utility function after this. Okay, so I'll say def convert, sorry. So if I call this out and I pass on the tool internally, what I can do, I can create a tool schema. And if I do a tool schema, I say, what is the type of this? This is a function. And then what is that function looks like? The function looks like something like this. It has a name. Okay. Remember, these are all dynamic things, right? You are not going to hard code anything. So you're going to call dynamically explore what all functions available in your server, call them dynamically. So that's how we need this kind of approach. So you can see that's why the MCP is a protocol. So when somebody writes an MCP server, they follows the protocol and you can get these values. So I get the description from the server code. So I'll say tool dot description. And then I need a type. And this time the type is a function. It could be resource, it could be thing, right? So that's why we need to explicitly call out that. And I also need parameters. Need to be very careful. And then my parameters is of a type which is an object. Okay, it can be integer, string. So let's put a larger bucket called object, and then I have got property PIES properties, and that is basically coming from tool dot input schema. So we tested earlier, right? This code in the server code, and then I say properties. All right, so this ends. I just let to see everything ends well, and then I'm gonna return it. All right, so I have this convert to LLM tool utility created, which takes my tool input, builds this schema, which is sort of like a standard, and then I can use it. Now, in the function.append call below, where I'm right now, what I'm going to do is that I'm going to use this convert to LLM tool and pass the tool object. So what essentially it is going to do, it is going to create a function object and an array object where each function looks like a JSON input. Okay, so that's what it is doing. Now I've got this prompt here. I've got my function. So if you have more than one tool, it will be more than one function. So my object will automatically pick up what is the best, and then give me the result. And then I am gonna say that for f in okay, I have got the function. Okay, so before that I need one small thing. All right, so I'll say functions to call. Right, so that's the one. And here I use this call underscore LLM, and then I provide my prompt, and I might provide my functions. Okay. Now, if I take this fn functions to call, and then I say result directly, just printing the result of await. I'll use that await because it's asynchronous. The session which I generated earlier in the beginning of this method, I'll say call underscore tool. And here in this, I will pass a couple of things. One is f as a name, and then arguments is args, right? Arguments, all right. And then I just want to print it here to see what kind of things are coming here. So I'll say tools result. We don't know what that tool is. Is it addition, multiplication, subtraction? But the result will come. Okay, so the result dot content. That's the output. Arguments. Sorry. No. All right. Let me just quickly check if we have done that. Let's just have a quick look. We have this import. We have got our second import, LLM references, system message we are not using, so probably we don't need it. std server.py, it worked, so we don't have to do that. I just need to check the GPT-4o is the right name of the model. Let me check if we have any GPT-4o model. Okay, models. We have to be careful because this is the name of the model. Okay, so let me see GPT-4o. Do I see that? GPT. So this is the model. If I use this model and go to the basic code, GPT-4o, that should work. I don't need OpenAI / GPT-4o. Not sure. Let's try. Okay. So it generally works like that also. So if I go to this, go down and then see that I've got a client messages, which is essentially creates a role system and the agent, and then you have got a user and a prompt, and then you basically create a model name, functions you provide as a tools, you set the temperature, max token, top P, all optional, response messages coming from the first one, function to call is getting created, which is getting basically adding the name and args as the two things. So function name and their corresponding args are getting populated in the function to call and returning the function to call. In the convert to a, use the tool, and then we build a schema as type function. We have to be very careful about it. If we miss any small piece, it might not work well. So let me just quickly check again. Function name, function arguments, tool call, that's fine. And then here I need the tool a dot name, description, type as function, and its parameter is a type object properties, input schema properties. So that is going to create a parameter array. One function can have multiple parameters, so that's fine. So it's just going to return the tool schema, and in this we ran this initial code. It worked well. The prompt is 20 with 25, and then I'm gonna do that. So let's try to run that. Okay, if everything is fine. What essentially then we get, if we clear it up, see that function name, no, no, LLM Pi. Okay, so if I say Python 3, all right, there is an error. Fantastic. What was the error? Let's try that. Do I need to provide this like this? So let me try fixing that this way. Maybe this is a new way of doing it. So let us just put the model name the way our, oh no, there should be an error. We'll see that. What is that error? Okay. String, which line it is? 108. Does that 108 think I will run? So this is creating trouble for me. Let me try running another code which I created earlier, which might work. I don't know what exactly missing in the code I have written right now. I might have missed a very important aspect, but let us try running something which I created earlier and ran well. Okay, a week ago. So I'll say Python 303. This is working. So that I might have missed something very silly. However, you can see that. Let me open that um, code. It's exactly the similar code which I've written. So you see here over here, the prompt, if I go a little down, the prompt is add 25 to 20 and replace this as these two numbers 120, 200. So it's a natural language, so it can use anything. And then the whole purpose of this thing is to um, get the required correct function and then call all the function with by setting the values, right? So it's kind of like if you have 3 for function, taking both the parameters, you will set them and then get them called one by one. So what I essentially am getting over here, if you see the output, is that you get the tools, the list of tools, that is what I'm printing here, is add, and then it takes a and b as 2 integers, and then when you call the LLM, it basically calls a function, add function, by passing a and b as 100 and 200. The function name is add and it calls, the call is happening, right? And then it also gives you the result as 300. Okay, so this is the second prompt, which is what it's replacing. So the output is 300. So I can change it to 500. So the output will become 600. So let's try doing that. And you can see that the calling LLM is kind of waiting. It might or might not work. It should work, but if it works, then it is perfectly fine. So you can see that it is now going to call the 600. So what essentially we have done here, we still have the old MCP server, we still have the client code, but in between we added the LLM capability. And LLM will decide and split things up and then call the required function based on how to set the parameters. So that's what LLM client really does in the MCP context. So hope you have enjoyed. I went a bit slow. You can follow along with me, and the code is available also. It's a very pretty simple approach of writing code, and you have seen I have taken multiple chunks of code from GitHub. You can also build it, try it, you understand the concept, and I'm sure you will find new ways to explore LLM with MCP. Thank you very much and have a great day.